Hey, it's Noel from the Enduro Bureau, and with me tonight is my one partner in crime, Jared Stock from Stock Off-Road Racing, SOR Enduro. What up, dog?
Howdy.
Howdy.
Hey,
What's
did you know howdy actually means?
no?
Like, how are you doing?
How are you doing? Yeah, howdy. Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
that was a very Cliff Clavin moment. That was good, but it was funny because I was thinking of Cheers as I asked how you doing, or what's shaking. And I was always like, one of my favorite things from Cheers was, "Hey Norm, what's shaking? All four cheeks and a couple of chins."
I always say my booty when somebody asks me what's shaking, so I'm close.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm sure Courtney likes it when you're shaking your booty,
She does.
your bootay.
That's why we're together.
That's fantastic. So Courtney is actually away working and couldn't join us this evening, which is sad.
It is sad. She's always very sad when she misses our pod evenings, so it's
Well,
too bad.
one thing, and we'll have to get to it when she's back, one of these episodes, is she got second in pro at the finale of the Sprint Championship here.
Yeah, she did her.
She did her. This is exciting.
Yeah, she was stoked. A lot of the times, we were last year weren't really successful on getting on the bikes when we were trying to put the races on, and this year we were a little bit better at that. And this last round we were a little bit overwhelmed at a couple things, but she got on the bike and did what she could do.
Well, you know what? I know that she is a hell of a rider, and she's coming back from some massive injuries, and that's gonna play some games in your head and just impact how you ride, obviously. But I did notice, like, no, not blowing sunshine up her ass or anything, but I did notice, to me visually, like she looked faster in round 3 than she did in round 2.
Yeah, definitely. I think every little bit she gets to be on the bike, it gets that confidence back. And we worked a lot on things in the last couple of years since we've known each other, and pre-accident was some major gains from where she was to then, and then more or less just trying to get that physical presence back, and it's part of it. But yeah, it's the mental game for sure. I mean,
Huge.
I've taken years off from injuries as well, and I worked on my mentality over those times, and I came back. I actually was faster on the bike, and I had to work my fitness back into it. But she's done the same in some regards. Like, she's been able to, like, I showed her a lot about how, like, the visualization of body position and technique can actually grow when you're not actually riding. It actually is probably more or less more important to do it off the bike to get that firm understanding of what you got to do.
Yeah.
And she's been able to do that, and then it's all about with just having those little things click. You can visualize it all day long every day until you actually feel it on the bike, and then that's when it all clicks. It's such a we could do a whole pod on that episode. I love coaching that.
Yeah, and that's like visualization is such a huge thing. Like whether it's in, again, my background's more on like, the mountain bike and road bike side, back in the day for racing. But yeah, like visualization's huge. Like just visualizing technique, visualizing track and what you're gonna do. And
Yeah, it is pretty phenomenal thing, and I don't know if it comes down to that, primarily because, like, when I wasn't racing, I was coaching every single day when I lived in Calgary. And some people I coach, form technique would take them an hour to, like, understand it and do it. And once they do it once, it, like, sticks. But I coached people for like 6 months on, like, a bi-weekly basis. And it would take like 6 months for somebody to get the same technique. But once they got it, they got it. So it is pretty
yeah,
interesting to know the differences between how people learn.
cool. Well, I did mention, the finale round of the Sprint Championship, and we'll get to that. But I think we'll start with just kind of recapping a little bit of what's been going on in the off-road world. So,
Mhm.
let's start here in Canada. Good weekend in GNCC. Shelby Turner, Enduro Engineering, Gas FXR Moto, continues her GNCC Rampage with yet another podium, P3,
Yeah.
behind series leader Rachel Archer and series second place Corey Steed. Yeah, like a really solid ride from Shelby in a very different track at Snowshoe than
Yeah.
the typical GNCC track. I don't know. Have you ever done Snowshoe?
No, that's one I haven't been able to get down to.
Yeah,
I think notoriously it's very muddy and wet and slippery.
yeah.
And maybe not completely up my forte, but it's always looked great. And I think it was the opposite this year, from what I've seen some photos.
Yeah, I think it was slick from dryness.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's always going to be wet spots on that course, but yeah, like and we'll talk about, well, I mean, another Canadian did well was and I mentioned it in the weekly roundup, was Hayden Dupuis from here in Calgary. Got back on the right track at GNCC in YXC2 class, where he picked up P2. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
P2. And that's really where he belongs, is top 3 in that class. His first year in that class, I believe.
Yep.
So a young guy. But his dad, Kevin, sent me a picture as I was messaging with him through the race, and I sent it to you of Hayden's tire from how dry and rocky it was. And
Yeah.
I think we both realized he was running like a really sticky tire.
Yeah.
But completely gone. Like the center tread was gone. It was like a file tread center with with a bunch of knobs on the outside.
Yeah,
On the edges. It was wild how ripped up that thing was over. I'm not sure how long their races are. Probably like an hour and a half.
I think
in that
it's
class.
somewhere in there. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, like he destroyed that thing. It's amazing he was able to bring it home like that almost.
Yeah,
Because there's some serious elevation on that course.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one good and bad thing about the gummy tires, if it had to have been a gummy for it to wear like that, but
Yeah.
sometimes you have like strange amounts of traction on gummy tires when the knobbies all go away. I've been able to run one down to nothing and still somehow pull off some, as long as the conditions aren't like, if it's muddy or ooped.
Yeah, you're
But
done.
in the dry and those gummies, it's kind of surprising. It
Yeah,
better
well,
be for how much money they are.
and they're not always the easiest ones to find either. So
No, especially around these parts when there's a hard enduro. When Red Bull Outliers comes around, it's like all hands on deck. Everybody trying to find a gummy tire.
Yeah, stock up ahead of time. And I'm sure there's been a run on them with Silver Kings happening just, 7-8 hours away from Calgary
Yep.
this weekend. I know there's a bunch of Albertans going down. I know there's probably a bunch of people I know a few people from BC are going. Probably way more than I know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
There's also a hard enduro in Canada. The Maze Runners got their gig up here, and
that's right.
It's probably unfortunate that was booked over on the same dates as Silver Kings, because I do know a lot of people locally that are probably within an hour of that race that are heading down south.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, and I feel for the Maze Runner guys, and because it looks like an epic course, and from stuff I've seen in the past, and they're just kind of getting back to it, I guess. They had a little break, but it looks amazing. I know Tristan Hart has done it before and had a lot of good things to say about it. It would have been epic. Hopefully next year, they can kind of get a little ahead of that on the calendar, and maybe set it up so it can be a standalone Canadian event.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, even who knows, and I'm not here to tell them their business, but with Outliers back on the calendar next year, who knows, if you schedule it right, maybe you can get a bunch of the FIM guys to show up and do it.
Yeah.
So
I think that's what they've done in the past, where they've had it like the weekend before, or maybe 2 weeks before, something like that. And they've been able to draw some crowd in, and which probably makes the most sense for everybody, because it costs a lot of money to get those races together. And it's unfortunate when the turnout isn't there.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough too, because the Euros do have the opportunity to come over and race TKO down in Tennessee the weekend before on the US Hard Enduro Premier calendar.
Yeah.
So that's always going to be a tough one, but hey, less travel. You never know. So I mean, that was really good news for Shelby and Hayden. I know Hayden's been having a few difficulties, some crashes, a few mechanical difficulties, but really good to see him back on track. And one thing I saw actually on the socials is I think it's I'm blanking on the first name. Taylor Lentz, I think. Taylor, yeah, is was running P1 overall in the YXC2 category that Hayden's in, and has dominated it. In fact, has already wrapped with his win in Snowshoe, wrapped up the YXC2 championship and is moving up to YXC1 for the back half of the season when they come back from their summer break. So
That's pretty wild.
yeah, some opportunity there. Maybe I think Hayden is capable of winning with Taylor there, but certainly maybe a clearer path to the top step of the podium. With Taylor moving up, assuming that does happen. But I mean, it was announced, so I'm going to say that it's likely happening. So
Yeah.
I mean, again, like the kids I saw racing, like in those categories, those 10, that first start of the day, the 8:30 start at Hoosier, holy crap! Like so much talent. Like it's just unbelievable how much talent is coming up. And I think there's so many kids up here in Canada that could do really well at GNCC if they got the chance to go down there, if they could make it happen.
Yeah, would be cool. I think there's a lot of talent up here that can do that, and hopefully that's where our series comes in and to promote that style of racing and doing it. Because I raced motocross my whole youth career, and then off-road in 2012, and I still didn't know I didn't even hear about what GNCC was until like my third or fourth year into racing off-road. So it's definitely, we got to get it promoted so that we can get some guys and gals doing that series
Down
the
there.
young.
Yeah. Well, so I guess that's a good segue because in a couple different ways. So, sorry, my sense of time is a little warped. I got really sick a few weeks ago with the COVID, and I was destroyed. I really didn't know like what the hell day it was. But the finale of the of your series, the Sprint Championship, the SOR Sprint Enduro Championship series, went off 2 weekends ago, I guess now. 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, that would have been 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I managed to make it up there. I was happy to would have been really bummed out if I couldn't. But why don't we start there? Because the finale of that, and then we move into 2 rounds of GNCC style racing here in Alberta with your series. So, we can talk about that stuff. But round 3 of the series was amazing. Extreme Raceways in Alex, Alberta, which is about 45 minutes east of Red Deer for those who are not from Alberta. Red Deer is kind of in the middle of the province. It's directly between the 2 biggest cities, Calgary and Edmonton. And just a real beautiful rural area, like rolling farmland.
Yeah. And then just said small pause when you said Edmonton. I had a small gutted feeling for the game last night.
The Oilers losing in Game 7. Yeah, I didn't.
Poor guys. No, not a fan.
No.
I don't watch hockey at all.
No, and like that was an amazing run by them, and I think they needed that. We can talk hockey, we can talk about Oilers' years of draft picks and all that stuff, but it's not that. But I will say this, like I didn't see a ton of it, but what I saw and what I read, like Connor McDavid was an absolute monster and a well-deserved MVP in the Stanley Cup Finals, and it's a testament to how amazing he was and how he stepped it up to yet another level that you can win the MVP on the losing team of the Stanley Cup. So
right, exactly.
Kudos to that, I guess.
And that's probably like the only reason I watch hockey is watching just athletes and that taking what I can from them. But I had to mention it just because that's all everybody else talks about. So I had to come in.
Yeah, and let's be clear, the Calgary Flames have pretty much sucked. So I'm not trying to defend that. So round.
Sorry,
enough hockey talk.
Sorry, I had to throw it in. We might just cut that out, No, I'm just kidding.
Canadian, we can talk about fucking hockey.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, we can.
But yeah,
posers.
Yeah, we were like 2 hours south of Edmonton Oilers, and having a glorious dirt bike race, and it was honestly probably the best round to date for our series as far as we got some pretty epic locations, and this one ended up being, it's a location that can be hit or miss for people on condition wise. It's can be dry and hard pack. It can be wet, and it needs to be wet
Yeah.
for the better conditions. And we lucked out again with some crazy weather coming in and dumping some serious amounts of moisture on it.
Yeah.
So too much would have been bad, but it just ended up being pretty good. So the week before, we had myself, the crew, the SR crew, and Mike Roberts and our friend Robin and
Sorry, I'm going to
Chris were
interrupt
out.
you with a correction there. Dr. Mike Roberts.
Oh, at Dr. Michael
Yes.
Roberts on the subscription
Yeah.
pads. So he was out there subscribing some sick lines. Um, he was really motivated to. He came out the whole week and wanted to see some new trail cut in.
Yeah.
So we put as much new trail into the enduro test as we had time to do, and it ended up just being unreal. So
Yeah.
it was
And
perfect.
on the pro men's side, another stacked field. I mean, so Phil Cheney, series leader, came back out for the third round. I mean, we
Yep.
knew he was going to, barring mishap. Owen McKill came back. So, Canadian ISDE World Trophy Team member. And what did he finish in round two? Second or third? I forget. Second,
Second.
behind Tristan
Yeah.
Hart, who showed up again.
Yep.
And this time Will Reardon is up training with his BFF Tristan. And
Yep.
he came out and raced and was really good. Like, very respectable P4 finish.
Yeah.
And man, this guy named Jared Stock actually had a pretty good day.
Showed up.
Showed up,
He showed up.
and showed out. But what I love is I got it on video, and it'll make it into the socials for the promo for this. But
Yeah, that's a good idea.
it's like The Simpsons, you can see the exact moment his heart broke.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there on the cross test in the morning, and there's like a small grass track kind of at the front end of the test, and then there's a big, huge grass track out, I guess, about 2/3 of the way through the test, and or halfway
Yeah.
through. And things kind of got screwed up on test one. You guys came sailing through, no problem, the pro men. But then Dr. Mike Roberts actually had a pretty big off, and we had
Yep.
to stop things for a little bit to get him sorted out and got things going again. But you guys came screaming through on test two, and you were flying. And so you won test one?
I won test one. Yeah. I came out. I won it by just a second, I
Yeah,
think.
it was tight.
Yeah. But it was good. I honestly didn't nail it. So I was like, oh, I think I got this.
Yeah.
Because I came back and we were all lining up in overall from test one. And I looked back at Tristan and Owen and Phil, and I said, not sure this is the way it's supposed to happen, boys. um, just to kind of like throw some digs,
Yeah.
but I don't want to piss them off because then they ride better. But
Some of those guys ride really
and
good when they're angry.
I know exactly. So I try to keep the mood light, and I ride good when I'm angry too, but I like to keep it light,
Yeah. Well,
So
and I'll say this. So where I was standing, you guys come screaming out of the woods, like up a hill along a fence line, out of the woods, out of the single track section at about Mach 10. You guys are wide open coming up this hill and across the top of this grass track. You come back and you were hauling, like you were fast. I was, wow. Like I was sort of like, whoa, Jared's on it. And then I was following you and I was shooting you video of you, and you came around and you're just getting to this jumpy part of the test. And I just caught out of the corner of my eye, like something wasn't right. But I was also like swinging to get, I think, Tristan or Owen, whoever came through second.
yeah,
Tristan it was.
Tristan, yeah,
And Tristan went through, and I noticed something else. And I was like, but again, like I'm just so locked in on trying to get these shots. And when I went back
yeah,
and looked at it, what it was you would come around this off camber straightaway into this fall away left turn that has like a little compression and then up and over. And you came in with the engine off. And I was like, I
yeah,
looked at the video and you were kind of like holding your wrist. And I was like, I know there's a huge hit in the middle of that a lot of people couldn't miss multiple
Yeah.
times. A lot of people just took the line right over it. I couldn't understand it.
Yeah,
Um,
me either.
but yeah, you were sitting there. I was looking back and I was like, did he hurt his wrist or something? Like, or what did he do? And then,
Yeah.
and so
I
let's back it up. What had you done the week before?
so to preface that, Olson, well, I'm riding a 450 SXF,
KTM
and
Canada.
uh, yeah, and I got that bike after I got the boot from the 6 days trophy team because I had two 350s and one was going to 6 days, one was going to be my bike in Canada here, and then um, Phil was going to come over. I had going to borrow my bike for the season for the sprint stuff, and then everything was good. And then I got the boot from the team, so I was like, well, I don't need two 350s anymore. So I traded it in for a 450 to go do some hill climb events down in the United States for the Moto Climb series, which is a great series. If you look into it, everybody, Matt Musgrove does a great job. And so I was like, whatever, I can ride a 450 in the three sprint rounds. It shouldn't be too big of a deal. So I had done a hill climb in Billings the weekend before, and for those races, you need to put in a tether kill switch so that if your bike goes flying down the hill without you, the bike quits. And which good thing I did because I did loop out one time and sent the bike flying down a hill. So yay for the tether. But when I got back from that, and then I had to hit the road right away to come to Alex, and I totally goofed and forgot my stock kill switch in my pile of parts in Medicine Hat. And so, like, it was in the moment because I don't touch my bike until like 10 seconds before I go race. And I was like, kind of panicked, and I was like, whatever, I'll just throw the tether around my wrist and should be fine. No big deal. But I had it zip tied so that there wasn't too much. I don't know why. It's stupid. I just overlooked it. And so somehow, some way, I came rifling on that off camber
Hit
left,
one of those bumps.
and I hit one of those bumps. It must not have been a big
Nope.
one because I was like in a straightaway, so I didn't quite understand how it happened. But the tether pulled tight enough to pull off the mount, which killed the bike, and I was like very confused in the moment. I was like, oh, I think did I just grenade this thing?
Yeah.
Like it's brand new. It had like 6 hours on it, and I was very yeah. I just and then as I coasted down the hill, I'm like thinking, I was like, hey, I just put an ECU in this. Did the ECU just fry? And I kind of had a moment where I was like, guess my day's done here. And I did the old like throw my arms up in the air, and that tether's around my wrists. And then I saw it floating around in the wind. I was like, that'll do.
That'll
Therein lies
do,
my
donkey.
problem. That'll do, donkey. So by the time I was on a downhill left off camber, which like all the forces in your
Yeah.
hands coming down
Yeah.
that. So I at that point, like I threw my hands in the air at the top as I was starting to coast, and I couldn't take my hands off the bar. I had too much weight. So I like get down to the bottom of the hill, and as we start going uphill, I stop and like I'm holding the brake, and then I was on the uphill. So I'm holding the brake with my right hand for the bike not to roll backwards. And it's on my left hand, so I'm like T-Rex arming,
Yeah.
trying to get the tether.
And
And
it's
then
so funny because Tristan Hart goes by you and is looking at you like, what the fuck,
yeah, he's like,
dude?
"What is he doing?"
What?
I know.
Get out of my way.
So he blows by, and eventually I get the bike back running, and then just get on it. And I actually caught back up to Tristan, and then he just roosted the shit out of me for that whole rest of that test. But I had to have lost, anywhere between that 10 and 15 second.
And when we
And
go and look at
that's,
the results,
yeah, I lost overall to Tristan. I lost second place to Tristan by 15
yeah,
seconds after 10 tests. And that position lost me the Sprint Enduro Championship as well. So, yeah,
yeah,
thanks for making me think about it
yeah, no
again.
worries. I'm happy to do that. Fucking loser.
Throw it in
Way to
my
go.
face.
I'm gonna remind you of that all
That
the time.
That's one of those
Yeah,
moments that is,
I'm gonna make you a bracelet
super
with like a
sad.
tether kill switch attached to
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah,
So yeah, that was a really good day. I mean, it was an exciting day of racing. Like times were close through the
yeah, all day.
top five. Like it was really good. And even six, I guess 6 and 7. I mean, it was a
Yeah,
good day of racing. So Phil Cheney had come in leading the series by 5 points over you.
Yep.
And then the difference between first and second place is 5 points. Then it starts decreasing, like on the
Yeah.
scale.
3, 2, 2,
Yeah,
1
one, one,
is
one,
the
one, one.
gap. So, and then I actually knew that. So I was doing the math in my head. I was like, primarily it's been between, Phil and I, and then Phil, Tristan and I. And then I was like, okay, and then Owen. I was like, okay, if Owen shows up, I knew Owen was
Yeah,
coming. And I was like, okay, if Owen beats me, and I'm like, well, I beat Owen here last year. So I need, I need to win, and I need to have two people in between Phil and
yeah.
I, or so that's when I was like that night. It was either that night or the day before. I can't remember if it was Friday or Saturday. But I started texting Tristan. I was like, "Hey, are you in town?"
You guys coming?
I said, "Yeah, are you gonna come to the sprint?" And he was doing something else and in close, just happened to be pretty close by. And then he was with Will as well, and I was like, "Perfect." I said, "You both should come." I said, "I don't know if I can beat you both, but the chances of
Did you
having
tell
more
him this?
people in
Did you
between."
tell him why?
No, no, but I did
Yeah.
afterwards when he beat me. I was like, "Thanks, dude." I said, "You just cost me a championship."
And did he just laugh at you?
But yeah, well, you know what? If you wouldn't have shown up, I wouldn't have had the
Yeah.
opportunity
Yeah,
anyways. So
exactly.
I'm happy, really happy those guys
And
came, man.
really good for
It
the
was a great
series to
day.
see those fast guys show up and like haul ass like they do on a sprint enduro.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah, good practice for them, good practice for us. It elevates everybody.
Totally. One of the things that sort of stood out was so Phil Cheney had come off the weekend before. He races FMSQ as his primary series over in Quebec, and he came off a win in round two. His first win
Yep.
in like a year and a half. He was pretty stoked. Really
Yep.
horrendous mud race. So good on him to get
Yep.
through that. Owen was there and actually laid down a blistering lap one, and then ran into issues with was it his air filter or oil filter? I don't know, one of his filters, but
Yeah, his air
air filter
filter, like
came off.
his
Yeah,
his airbox cover came off, and then it was so muddy. And I think like once those covers come
yeah,
off, when Owen grips where his legs grip, you have a pretty good opportunity to take the clip that holds the air filter on.
yeah,
So it actually came
yeah.
out. And I don't know if you saw the photo. There's so much water
Oh,
and
I
mud
didn't.
and oil in. Oh,
I'll have to get that.
it
We'll have to
was
show that.
how he managed to finish that race is
Yeah,
beyond
and he
me.
still
Like that
got
bike.
like sixth or something. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, incredible, right?
Mind
Like,
blowing.
but that first lap was mind blowingly fast compared to the field.
Yes, Phil told me it was
Like he checked
disgusting.
out on lap one.
Yeah,
Um,
which is
yeah,
awesome for
super
him.
sick. And I know Owen, like talking to him, he's so stoked about racing the series this year.
Yeah.
So Phil comes out, and I don't know if it was just like let down, and also just like travel's not easy. It was Father's Day, he's away from the kids. Phil ended up having his only off day of the series and got P5. Like
Yep.
I talked to him a little bit after the race. You can see on the Enduro Bureau Instagram that his little quick post race interview, and I didn't want to get into it, like give him the old like what the fuck happened, and I should have. I feel bad that I didn't now.
Well, we can
Yeah,
dad talk him now
yeah,
because he's not on the pod.
he's not on, and
He's not
yeah,
here.
fuck him.
Just
Yeah.
kidding. I don't know.
Did he have
I couldn't.
did he have a bad day, or is that just not like his style of course? Because that course, that was the other thing I wanted to say is, I mean, out of the 3 rounds, that course was very enduro GP minus the extreme test, like the
Yeah,
cross
it
test
was
and enduro
much.
test.
Yeah, much faster than. I think it was faster than for sure the first 2 rounds.
Yeah,
Brooks is notoriously pretty fast, being the given the
yeah,
terrain, but
kind of
he
flat,
made it
wide open, and
way. Yeah, and it was way more technical though.
yeah,
Like Brooks, even the grass track was only, it's really rough, but it's only like 2 feet wide is the main line.
yeah,
So you're stuck into that zone, where in Alex, we have lots of width. The grass track is 30 feet
yeah,
wide. And that's where, but at the same time, man, Phil at his house, he's got massive, massive grass track, and he is a weapon
yeah.
at his house on grass track. So I know, Yeah, actually, now that I really analyze it, I don't know if the boys just stepped it up and brought it all out there and,
He just was having
you
a
know,
rough day, or
well, and who
yeah,
knows, maybe if I would have rode more in line with how I did in round 1 and round 2, Phil would have been right there
yeah.
with Tristan anyways. So,
So let's talk about that. And because I've been giving you like not a hard time, but one of the things I keep saying is like you got to ride more rowdy. Like you got to ride closer to the
yeah,
edge. Like when I watch you, and and
yeah,
I'd point out like look at the guys at Enduro GP and how they're riding, and you're so precise, right? And I think a lot
yeah,
of people fall into this technique trap of
yeah,
perfect technique over like sometimes a little chaos is required to get that raw speed up.
yeah,
And
yeah, and yeah, that's probably I can give you some credit for pointing that out.
I'm the fucking
And I
coach, yo.
brought,
Now
yeah,
I am.
I know, I actually do appreciate that. Because you know what? Like I was a coach for so long that I don't know if people are afraid to give me, to tell me what's up, but I need it. Everybody needs that, and it's so that helped me.
Yeah.
Eh, I honestly like it took me a while to jive with the 450 too.
Yeah.
Like getting ape shit on a 450 is scary,
Yeah.
and at Alex being a little bit more wide open, I could get myself some breathing room.
Yeah.
Like you should text Tristan and ask him what the best part of his day at Alex was. And I guarantee you, he told me this when we left. He's like, dude, the best part of my day was when, like, in the enduro test, when I was still beating him overall, he would be behind
Yeah.
me, and I was getting out of control in a lot of sections.
Yeah.
And somehow, like, he's like, dude, you were out of
Just on
control.
the
And I was like,
edge,
yeah.
right?
And that was borderline, like, trying to push it. Like,
Yeah.
I was really trying to push it. And um, then getting a little bit tired by the end. And there was like points where I was, and this is kind of the thing. It's like I was getting out of control. I would like have some certain sections where there's like blind edges
Yeah.
that if you can nail it, you can land into a rut that's on the other side of this blind edge. And I remember the one time it's trees on both edges, but if you just caught this one line perfectly, and I like jumped it, the rear wheel caught the edge, and I was like tank slap completely out sideways. I somehow flew into like the dense trees where there's trees like a foot apart from each other through like
Yeah.
dense, and I somehow went into the trees completely sideways, and I don't even think I hit a tree, and somehow whoop, in the trees, out of the trees,
And
and then
Tristan is just
back
like,
on. And
oh my fucking God.
he's just watching this going, and he's just probably laughing.
What's this
And
guy doing?
yeah, risking my life for a $12
Hey, I
trophy.
love it.
No,
Attaboy.
actually, we got payout. We got
Yeah, that was a
payout.
good payout. Um,
Yeah,
so I mean that was awesome to see. And like I said, like guys stepped it up. Like Owen was flying.
flying.
Like he was riding with, I don't know if it was rage or just like confidence that he's building. And so when I talked to him after, and I got so much catching up to do because like I kind of felt good enough to go to the race, and then I cratered again after, just from like hiking around all day. And there's stuff
Yeah.
I still haven't put up, like my little post race with Owen. And he gives a lot of credit to Phil in that. And he just says like, yeah, working with Phil, like Phil's helping him dial in his nutrition, giving him so much like riding, like coaching, and
Hmm.
the FMSQ rounds combined with like how hard he was going after Norks back in the Pacific Northwest. He's got a lot of race seat time this year already.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
for a North American, non GNCC off road rider, like he's doing pretty well. I mean,
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
Canadian, yeah,
He's got he's showing some true potential in his
yeah,
abilities to he's always been a guy that could pin
yeah,
it, and now he's like putting it together
yeah.
where it's got a lot of consistency with that speed. So I think he's got tons of
I think
room
he's
for
got a lot
potential.
more
Like
progression that he can lay in, and he's just like you say, like just that untapped potential, and he's starting to tap into it. I mean, he
exactly. And
looks he looks like a racer out there. Like he looks
exactly.
I feel this is like I fucking feel like I like one of those the scouts from the Moneyball movie where they're all sitting around like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he looks like you're.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy, I don't know, he's not a star, like, he doesn't have a, he doesn't have a hot girlfriend, but Owen does.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
plus he's got that flowing blonde hair, and I didn't
yeah,
realize, like, he's only 21? I did
exactly.
not realize that. I figured he was, like, mid-20s.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean, he's got so much time,
Yeah,
and just from when I first started racing with him last year, to now, it's progressed a
yeah,
lot, and what I've seen with him over the last year is from he's had some
yep,
confidence in his, abilities, and the conversations we've had at, like, 6 days and stuff like that at these major events, he's not afraid to have that confidence grow,
yep.
and he's that's what I've seen change in him. His confidence is increasing massively. Maybe not massively, but in these, swallowable
In the right
increments
way.
in the right
Yeah.
ways, and I think that's gonna be what continues to grow. He does not believe he doesn't belong,
He does
and he doesn't
not
believe.
believe he doesn't belong. What the
Yes, and
fuck?
he believes. Yeah,
Come
that's
on.
I gotta give s I well, I just wanted to fix my sentence. Um, he believes
Yeah,
he belongs. That's what I meant to
yep,
say, and that will continue to grow, like, and that's what him and I always talked about, and, I know my career has a shelf life,
yep.
so I love helping Owen out, like,
But that's
anywhere I
it. You
can.
look at off-road and, like, he's still a few years away from his prime, whereas in
Exactly.
motocross, he'd be kinda hitting it right now.
Yeah.
And, he's got, what? Like, I would say, like, kind of 25, 26 to, like, 35 would be the prime years for him
Yeah,
there, you know?
exactly. And he's a guy that's come strictly from an off-road
Yeah.
background where, I guess, so is Phil. I guess it's a 50-50, Phil or Tyler and myself come from
Yeah.
motocross to, racing off-road, and they're off-road and trying to mix in this moto. And I've seen Owen started to do the training with, riding lots of moto and stuff like that. And, yeah, I think it's going to be good for him, and I'm cheering
Well,
for him.
and, he also gives credit to, linking up with Boston Montgomery as a training partner out west, out in
Hmm.
the Vernon area, and those guys are ripping it up, and I'm looking forward to seeing Boston, on the junior trophy team for Canada in Spain, seeing what he throws down, because he's
Hmm.
going fast from what I've seen.
Yeah, it'd be great to see him out here, in those sprints. It would have been nice
Yeah,
to get
or
everybody all
if you can make
calibrated
it
up.
to the cross country round or whatever, but, I know it's not easy sometimes to get across the mountains.
Yeah.
Uh, so we mentioned Tyler Medaglia. I always
Hmm.
is it silent G or hard G? Like,
It's
yeah,
silent,
Medaglia.
I believe,
Yeah,
unless I'm been
I'm pretty
pronouncing his
sure
name wrong
that's
this
the
whole
way it
time.
is, but I don't want to get it wrong.
That
Sorry,
how
Tyler.
it was how it was solidified for me was when we were in Italy the first time I went racing with
Yep.
him, and we are going on the what's the parade opening
Oh yeah, yeah.
ceremonies, and it's like they announce his name in Italian, and "Ta-da, Medaglia!" And it was like,
Easy.
and he turned, he's like, "Wow." He's like, "That's the best someone's ever announced my name." And I was like, "Okay, well,
I'm
that's how I pronounce
just
it."
gonna shout it at him all the
Mhm.
time now whenever I see him, like with an
Yeah.
Italian
I don't
accent.
think I don't even know. He doesn't seem to correct anybody when it's this or that,
I'm sure
so
he notes it.
yeah. Yeah. Bad books, check.
Check.
No Christmas
You're a
card,
dick.
check. Yeah. Mhm.
So obviously, we had Tyler on with Owen like way back. We were talking to those guys on the podcast, like episode 3 or something.
Yeah, the best.
So Tyler has had a rough start to his moto season. We talked about it then. Tyler's contract is with Honda Canada, GDR Racing, Fox Racing Canada, that team, the GDR Racing team. And is for motocross in the Canadian Triple Crown Series, where he's racing MX2, the 250 class, and was expected with Dylan Wright in the 450 class. Those two were, potentially, could give Honda Canada the sweep in those two classes. but a rough start. So the first round of the national series was here in Calgary, at Wild Rose MX, and I went down there with, just actually to see what, Tyler and Lexi Pichot from the women's World Trophy Team, and we'll get to that, soon. Just see what they were up to, do some sort of behind the scenes, get some video of them, like, hauling ass on the motocross track, just, building some background content for ISDE. And, I've been talking with them and, we are going to meet up after the race at the truck and all that stuff. And lap one of Moto one, he goes down. And unfortunately, Drew Adams, young future stars out of the US, had nowhere to go and ran over his head, split his helmet. And, I saw him come into the pits like way, like, and he was just kind of like wobbling by on the bike and then around, and up and over a feature. So I got to see him for a couple 100 yards, and he stops on the bike and he's leaned over, and I was like, just saying to the people I was there with, I was like, something is not right. I mean, obviously something's not right if he stopped, but then he gets off the bike and just, you know, looked a little unsteady walking back to the truck, and I just stayed out of it. Like, I didn't even like go over there. I just was like, I don't know how he's doing. It's not the time for me to be there. That's for sure.
Mhm.
So yeah, concussion, no points in the first of the Triple Crown rounds. With the next round in Southern Alberta, in Raymond, Alberta, the following weekend, he got cleared to race. Same. So again, lap one, Moto one. And I'm not sure, did he go down, or was he just like didn't feel right and pulled out?
Uh,
I think he
he
went
went
down.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, first corner. There was a first
Yeah.
corner crash
Yeah.
that I believe took him down.
Yeah. So, and that kind of wrecked that round for him. So, unfortunately for Tyler, like, 2 rounds of the Triple Crown with no points. Wisely, he and the team made the decision that he was going to sit out the third round, the last round of the Western Swing in Manitoba, to get himself
Mhm.
right for, I think, is round 4 at Gopher Dunes, the home track. So, um,
It could be. I haven't looked at
yeah,
the
I have to
schedule.
double check. I think it is, but
Yeah.
obviously he wants to be on point for that. Um,
Yeah.
and really start flying in the back half, of the series. So have you talked to him at all, or?
I talked to him briefly between the first 2
Yeah.
rounds and just had some small chit chat, and he was only an hour away from where I live,
Yeah.
so I was trying to make a plan to meet up with him, but never did. And he was just once he was cleared to get back on the bike, I think he was just trying to make sure everything was good for the weekend.
Yeah.
And then I actually haven't talked to him since then. I did send some text to see if he was doing all right, but that was like briefly after that round 2 ended.
Yeah.
So haven't heard from him, but I hope he's doing all right.
Yeah. I saw him post some stuff up. He's riding at his home track back in Nova Scotia and looks like he's flying. So that's good news. So round 2 was tough for the trophy team as well, the Canadian ISDE Trophy Team, with Lexi Pichot on the women's side, uh,
Mm.
going down on the West Can Amateurs Day, I guess, and re-injuring the knee that she had hurt at that same track the previous summer in August at one of your sprint rounds,
Yep.
which was really unfortunate. I know that she opted not to have surgery so she could, when she hurt it the first time, so she could go to race the Enduro Japan and then Outliers. And then I think it was feeling a lot better this year. Like, I don't think it felt right, but it felt right enough
Mm.
to ride. And she did pretty good in the Calgary round at the Triple Crown, and she was flying at the sprint series the first 2 rounds. She was riding within very close, like within 1% of Shelby Turner's times, I believe. If I
Yeah.
look back, I'd have to. But she was well within like that 99% of Shelby's winning times, and was
Yeah.
beating her on some tests. And one of the things that I had pointed out kind of like from an analysis side was, yeah, like she just hasn't had anywhere near the seat time. And I was really excited for what the summer was going to bring. And she started racing more, as she was already getting those times so close to Shelby. And you could see there were some near the end of the first 2 rounds, like near the end of the day, where the gap opened up, where you could see she was just tired. But
Yeah.
I thought it was really like looking good for that women's team. So she re-injures her knee, and announces on social media that she's, done for the season.
Yeah.
Or I guess she doesn't say she's done for the season, but she's out for now.
Yeah. Out for now, just to see what
Happen.
perspires.
And sort of, I think you and I talked a little bit before the podcast. I think we're kind of in agreement where, it feels like it's unlikely she's going to be able to make it to Spain for ISDE, and it'd be tough to do that after having to miss like the bulk of the season for a knee injury.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way the system is up here, like who knows when you get in for surgery, and with, if you're not, like, just to have that heavy an event with that kind of injury, you're probably pretty weighted on that decision.
Yeah.
And the likelihood is, I would expect that that she wouldn't want to do that.
And again, for people who are listening I know we get people listening from the States, from Australia, from Europe, and from Asia. For fans of ISDE, and we've talked about it in other episodes, where the Canadian trophy teams are self-funded. To a very high percentage are self-funded.
Yeah.
And to invest the time away from work, the money to go, I mean, it's a pretty hefty bill to go if you're not 100% or 90% or whatever.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it does. I mean, now, I haven't talked to anyone about it. I can speculate and infer that, there's a good chance we'll see Emma Sharpless get promoted from the women's club team to the trophy team. She was on the trophy team last year. Unfortunately ran into the difficulties on day 1 in Argentina with the heat. And I can't remember if it was something else, but I know the heat was a factor.
Did she
crash?
Like high sided? Yeah, she crashed, and then she ran out of crashed. The fuel cap came off,
right.
And I think she ran out of gas before even getting to that check.
Yeah, so she was.
Yeah,
that was a brutal day for the Canadian women. Day 1.
Yeah, that was tough. So yeah, we never got to see her out of 6 days last year and see what she can do. But looking at the first handful of FMSQs that she's done, and the Off-Road Ontario, I think she's performing well, and that's good signs.
Yeah, and I mean, Felicia Robichaud seems to be riding well, coming back from her hand injury. That seems to be coming. So I think there is, a lot of hope for the Canadian women's trophy team. Yeah, and it's too bad, and it's like, I know Lexi a little bit, and she's from Calgary, so it's easy to be a fan, seeing, how she rides off-road, how she rides on the track, and what she does for the community, the moto community, especially the women's moto community through the Surf and Berms group here with her bestie, Danica White. The stuff they do is amazing. And, I'm sad that I won't get to hang out and see Lexi race in Spain. We think, barring, any miracles there. But, so interesting to see what'll happen. So there's going to be obviously some shuffling of the deck on the women's side. We'll leave it at that, I guess, until we know a little more. But certainly I'll be reaching out to Lee Freiberger, the team manager for ISDE, the Canadian ISDE team, to see if he's got any updates this week or next week on what's going on the women's side. So yeah, I'm just trying to think what else. I mean, knee injuries. Or did you have something to say about that?
Do I have something to say?
Well, I'm assuming you do.
No.
I just wonder, do you feel comfortable saying it?
No, we won't get into her. But yeah, no, I think they'll look at the process for that team selection, and if that comes down to that, and whatever decision Lexi makes, and move the most applicable person up. And
so Okay, so I'll get going on that a little bit, and I mean, this is one of the things, like a tough thing that you've experienced and Phil has experienced, but in a way, it's I will sort of say from the other side that it's also a good thing. Like Canadian talent is getting better and deeper. We'll start there.
Yeah.
Um, and I think one of the things is, you said you got bounced from or booted, I believe is the term you used, from the team earlier in this episode.
Fired.
Fired, replaced,
Oop.
demoted to the club team.
In- yeah.
Which, so that's what happened is you and Phil Cheney were bumped from the trophy team to the club team, and you guys made the decision in light of that and the cost of going to choose not to go to Spain as members of the club team, which is fine. Like, no one's judging
Yeah.
anything. And I'm sure, I'm not sure. Like, I know for a fact it was emotional and hard for both of you guys. And, as anyone would be impacted by that. But what it does lead to is where I'm getting at with this, like, growing depth of talent, the widening talent pool and decisions being made, and like there being this, depth of talent that's emerging. That's one thing Canada hasn't had to have for a couple of
Yeah.
reasons. One, there just wasn't the interest and the knowledge in ISDE so much. And two, the financial impediments to going to ISDE as a member of the Canadian team, whether it's the trophy team or a club team, especially the trophy team. But now we're getting into an era of Canadian racing where we do have, like, FMSQ series is doing what it's supposed to do. It's building fast racers. Your series is going to build fast racers. People crossing over is going to bring fast racers in, and just more people with more diverse skill sets on the bike that can go fast in different circumstances. Which is great for this country's off-road motorcycle game.
Yeah. Industry, the whole industry, the community, everything. It's growing, and there definitely is, like you said, there's a lot of infrastructure being put in place to have that progression qualified, and some sort of path and procedure to follow, and an outcome. Similar, if you follow this, this, and
here's the
this, and you can
developmental
get
roadmap, right? Like,
exactly, yeah.
So the one thing we don't have is, as a result of all, like, those two main factors, as I would just leave it at that. Those are the two big factors that have sort of meant that historically the Canada has not had to have a qualification process for the trophy team.
Mm-hmm. Nothing that's been really
formal,
quantifiable.
Yeah, it's not a formal process. It's not like, for instance, they have the ISDE team qualifiers down in the States. They have an East qualifier, a West qualifier.
Yeah, and I think, from my understanding too, like in the States, that those qualifiers are essentially for the club division stuff, which is super necessary because that is the stepping stone to a trophy team. And to kind of clarify, like, Phil and I have rode club together before too, and it's been a blast, and it's necessary, and it is
development.
It's a development. It's that stepping stone. And it's just, it's whatever sort of some sort of proper quantifiable structure definitely is a bit of a more something easy to swallow. And just so you can strive for those things, and whatever that process is leads to an opportunity to ride on a club team, and then proving yourself in a club team is an opportunity to compete on the trophy team, is how I see something. And
I mean, pretty much every sport, talk about Olympic sports or whatever, any sport I've been involved with, and any Olympic sport in Canada pretty much has selection criteria for major games and events. Here's how you qualify as a swimmer for the Commonwealth Games. Here's how we pick the team for the Olympics. And it's a very prescribed thing. Now, are we at a point in Canada where we need to have something as detailed and as prescribed as those major Olympic sports? I'm not sure. I think we're getting close.
Mhm.
I think it'd be great, and I think it would help people have something to shoot for and have something to aim for in setting goals and, wanting to pursue the sport. And it also, I
Yeah,
think, would give industry sponsors a reason to say, like, okay, like, we can be sure that the best team is going. So if we're going to put our scarce dollars into this, we know the best team is there.
exactly. And that's one thing, I've personally heard feedback from industry is, we have to have a structure in place that doesn't make it seem, for lack of a better term, Mickey Mouse, because like you said, they want to put something into something that they know is professional, and I'm not trying to down talk anybody. I'm just saying this is what people are expecting
Yeah.
to
And
see. And one of the biggest thing that aggravates me with the Canadian ISDE image, from I've only been involved with it in the last decade, so I haven't had any experience previous to that. But, when I posted my, disappointment in not being selected for the team this year, there's comments like, well, who cares about the ISD? It's just an event that, people who can afford to go to,
exactly.
or, and it's like, it's, it's super strange that that's the
Yeah.
main,
Because
image
what it is,
that
it's
people have.
MXON for off-road, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It
And nobody says that about
it's the World Cup.
the nobody says that about
Yeah.
destinations for
No.
Canadians. It's like, oh yeah, that's the best of the best, and with everybody's, it's funded, it's this and that, and then everybody's stoked to get behind it. And why we haven't been able to build something along those lines to this point is, I don't know why it is, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's what we can build going forward, and that's something we can probably easily match in creating a professionalism around it to have that
Yeah.
image and that proper structure, and that's the way I look at it. Like, I obviously was pretty disappointed in how it went down. Not that it went down, it's how it went down for me. And if you know me personally, you can ask me my feelings. I won't get into it too deep
Nope.
here, but now I look at it as, I was listening to the Steve Jobs commencement speech. If you ever,
Yeah.
when he talks about how he got fired from Apple, and then he took it as an opportunity to regrow and relearn in other areas, and that's what the opportunity is for me now. Not doing Spain as a competitor, well, has allowed me to kind of reimagine what we can do to build the industry with SOR and the series. So I've been able to put all that time, effort, and money into that area, and it's only going to further develop the ISDE program, in my opinion. And that's something that I know Phil and I want to focus on as later in our lives, when we're not the top options for competitors. We'll accept that, and we'll probably, we have so much passion for it, we'll put that passion into to building the
Yeah.
program.
Um, I don't know, like, how, and I guess the question is, so how do we do this in Canada? And, because we lack a national series. So we have FMSQ out east, which is like a, high speed GNCC style racing series. Your new series, this is the second season of it. Still Alberta based, but, very much it's test racing, except for this year,
Yeah.
you've kind of branched out. You're going to try a couple of GNCC style rounds here coming up in July and August, which are going to be awesome. I'm pretty stoked for that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it would be great to, and then you throw in, arguably, the biggest test enduro race in Canada, the corduroy.
Yep.
Um, the corduroy, I mean, the problem with the corduroy is it's late in the season. So how do maybe use corduroy as the first qualifier for the following year,
Yeah.
so it's, sort of like a statement of intent at the end of the season, towards the end of the season there.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
then, yeah, just get to a point where there's some designated races, and, those are the races that matter, and results matter in those races in the selection of the team. And it
Yeah.
can't be, one race because anything can happen in one race, right? But,
Yeah.
you find a way to balance out people in the West and people in the East. And, like this year, like we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it on a podcast episode, but for me, it was really exciting because with Phil coming West, he's racing at the front end of FMSQ. He's racing at the front end out here. And then you can use Phil as a baseline to see like how people are running or how they might conceivably run nationally, even if they're not
Hmm.
at FMSQ. They had the opportunity to race, a baseline rider, a front end, like a tip of the spear rider to get a baseline off them. And we can, extrapolate data through, percentages of times and all these things and do a little analysis on it and say like, okay, like, yeah, here's the people that are throwing down consistently within like, you know, they're within a percent or 2% at the outside of the fastest guys in Canada, and with people crossing over between series, Owen and Phil, like we can kind of get a sense of where people stand east and west.
Hmm.
Um, and I know you have talked, and I don't know how much you want to talk about it now. You've talked about before on the podcast about growing the series out to a national level. Like, is that something you foresee as reasonable or something that can happen soon or, you know?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to, yeah, like a selection process in data-driven
Yep.
decisions, I think that is a key point for sure. When you have data to use
Yep.
it. And I think you can, if you can use data and you have data on a certain rider in a group, then, that's relevant to
Yep.
utilize. And, Phil is a great example because he's willing to do it
Yep.
all. And so you have that data that, you've got 10 6 days under his
Yep.
belt, that data, and you have FMSQ,
Yep.
you have SOR,
GNCCs. You've got
you have
Tyler mixes in
GNCCs.
once in a while. You've got Owen mixing in.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Owen at a
So,
GNCC, honestly, to see what he would do there to baseline him off Phil and
yeah.
Tyler in that kind of a race.
And we do have one last year. He's got two
Oh, okay. Okay.
GNCCs, or
One.
one
Okay.
after. But
Yeah.
anyways, it's so, and it's tough to do a selection process off a certain
Yeah.
series, because we'll do our
It's a big
best
country.
to. Yeah, it is, and we'll do our best to build whatever structure we can in our series to allow the data to be used to create that. And then same with corduroy, but there's only a handful of people as a percentage of participants that are willing to
Yeah.
travel coast to coast, which maybe is something to be said in
Yeah.
itself. Is there is that handful of people willing to put in excess amount
Yeah.
of
Yep.
efforts and
Yep.
participation. And then as far as creating something nationally, I think even if it was national or regional, you're still going to have the division of
Yeah.
travel.
Always.
Um, and I don't think anybody in the USA is doing both sides of the
The
country.
only person that really springs to mind is Dante Oliveira, who's raced
Yeah,
a
that's true.
handful of GNCCs as well as the
Yeah, and
NGPC.
that was basically a fill-in for Ben
Yeah.
Kelly while he was gone, which was great. He's been able to do
Yeah.
both, and you know what? It the same thing lies here, I think, as it does down there. Is it the coast to coast? There are different styles of
Yep.
racers who excel in different
Yep.
terrains. If you look at last year's ISD team from USA was, Martinez and
A little more of that
who
West
else?
Coast.
Yeah, it was, and we knew it was going to be a bit more
Yeah.
desert-esque, and they did really well. And so that just goes to show there's, the decision is knowledgeable with coast to
Yeah.
coast terrain, but you have this data or this pool of people to choose from, and I believe we're on that path.
Yeah.
And you just have to know. And there's probably I don't know how it works exactly, but there's probably a committee of people who are all in the know
Yeah.
that have this information on what the 6 days will be like and what racers we have in our country that are that are performing
And
well.
that's exactly it. So I think that's where we'd want to get to is like, okay, we know that in 2025, ISDE is going to be in Wichita. It's not going to be in Wichita, Kansas, but like,
Medicine Hat,
yeah,
Alberta.
sure. Medicine Hat, Alberta. It's gonna be a Medicine Hat. Hell yeah. It's totally not. This is fake news.
Yeah.
But okay. So now we know we're like, it's going to be in Italy, and we know that it's going to be at this place in Italy, and there's enduro GPs there. There is. It's just like Spain this year. Like there's enduro GPs in that region. ISDE's been around there. Like,
Yeah.
you can reasonably anticipate what the tests are going to be like.
Yeah.
And then the committee, however it works, like whether it's starting with Corduroy 2024, but there's criteria, like if you race this series, like, you get points, like we're going to count FMSQ, SOR, and Off-Road Ontario as the point
Yeah.
series. And, however, we're going to divvy it up. And then, we're going to have like our pool of people who are interested in it and who, I mean, it's still going to be a problem for a while, who frankly have the financial means or the sponsorship support to go, but
Hmm.
have people declare interest. And then, like, hey, race to these criteria. And if you clearly win those criteria, you're going. If it's close, then maybe we're going to go to like a coach's choice position, or like a best fit for that, for this year, like what this year's bringing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very much, in line with Olympic Association selections.
Yeah. Yeah. The frameworks are
Yeah.
there. And I think we can just take some time and effort to sit down and see how it best works
Yeah.
for us. And the more years we follow that, then we'll have, let's say, a group of 10, potential trophy team
Yep.
um, applicants and serious competitors that are like, okay, like we need 4 or however many they send that
Yep.
year for that team. And we believe these 4 will be the top
They're our best
picks for
chance.
this
Out of
location.
the people who
And
met the
then
criteria, we think these are the best. And
exactly,
the other guys, like, we want to see you on the club team showing how you
exactly.
perform in a 6 days environment with like all day transitions. I mean, that would be amazing to have another race like the Cord, or even longer, right? Like a 4 day, like enduro with long transitions out west or something, like those day long things, which would be horrible and difficult and brutal to organize. I
Yeah.
get it, but
I
it's
yeah.
not
And it's
impossible.
and no, for sure. And it's been done out here before.
Yeah.
There's been 2-day
Yeah.
enduros, and yeah, it's a logistical administrative nightmare with Crown land and all that kind of stuff. And I think, going back to what SOR could be, it's a toss up on, we really like the sprint enduro stuff, and it's a great training grounds, but it's also people love doing it, and we're starting to build
Yeah.
that clientele
It's a
that really
and
enjoy
it's a great
it.
crossover for the motocross guys.
It is, and this last round, we actually mistakenly or didn't really pay attention on our scheduling that the first round or no, it would have been the second round of the Western Canadian Off-Road Championship
Yeah.
was in
Yeah.
BC, and so we lost a core group of off-road
Yep.
people to that first round in
Yep.
BC, and we ended up gapping that entire void with a motocross based
Which is
registrations, which
awesome.
was really
And
cool.
that's kind of the dream for you
And
guys as a business.
it is, and it was really cool. Like I was so excited about that because, um, you know, there's in Alberta, we've got some like hate mail on starting a sprint enduro series. We got the anything from we're not real enduro and we're whatever. I don't know what the deal is
I
with
roll.
trying to crack. Yeah, trying to crack the Alberta code, but so we've had this hope that with my motocross background and the experience and success I've been able to have in off road, that some of the motocross locals would start to see this as an opportunity to get some different experience and grow
Yep.
their skill
Yep.
sets. And this was probably the first weekend that we saw a large number of motocross registrations, which, fill that gap in our registrations from the off-road stuff. So
And
that was a really
did you get
exciting piece
feedback
from
from
the
those
weekend.
people?
Yeah, some of them, like a large majority of them, said they had so much
Yeah.
fun, loved
Yeah.
it. And I was looking at some of the results from the weekend, and I noticed that some of them had 5 cross test finish, like really good cross test
Yeah.
finishes. And then we had the sight lap, and it was pouring
Yeah. Oh,
rain for
yeah.
the
Yeah.
enduro test. And
It
then
was
there's just like all of a
slick as
sudden,
goose shit. Like,
it was so
it was
slippery for that.
ridiculous.
And the sad part is that, like, there was a handful of people that I saw did really good on the cross test, did that
And then
sight
just
lap
pulled the
for the
pin.
enduro test, and then pulled the pin,
Yeah.
quit. And it took 2
Yeah.
tests for that thing to dry up to the point where it
There was an
wasn't
amazing
goose.
tacky line and
It was crazy
yeah.
fast after
Yeah.
that. Like, it was so much fun. But yeah, it did scare a couple of them, but you know what? That's gonna happen
Yep.
too. And, yeah, no, that was cool. And so, yeah, I guess where was I going with that? It was so, um, yeah, so that's part of it. And then, so we want to continue building this sprint series, A, because we want to see that portion of the the network and the community of riders here grow that area. Um, and then let's say, we're going to do these 2 cross countries, more FMSQ, GNCC style cross countries, see how people enjoy it. They're pretty used to it for as far as, it's somewhat of a hair scramble for what they're used to, but there's going to be width option lines, stuff like
Yep.
that versus just single track. And then, we have next year what we want to do, or what we're planning on doing, is something along the lines of either I think depending on how these cross countries go, we'll go full sprint mode,
Yep.
unless we have this overwhelming feedback on people loving this cross country
Yep.
format. And we'll take it to the point of regional. We'd like to go that route
Yep.
anyways, if we can. A couple rounds out in BC, maybe a couple rounds Alberta, a couple rounds between Manitoba, Saskatchewan, that have a regional, national
Yep.
championship. And, there's always the idea of trying to put together another 2-day enduro
Yep.
out this way, where we can combine both the single track nature of Alberta and the trail system we have with this testing
Yep.
format. The struggle would be to find a location that could pull it off.
Yeah.
We like to stick on private land so that there's not crazy amounts of administrative work to do
Yep.
to get these off the ground. But at the same time, no one owns, that I know, like 600 acres of land in this direction that we could do something in that.
If you are listening to this podcast and you have
Yeah.
600 acres of land that would fit this, please contact SOR at Gmail.
Yeah, SOR Enduro Racing at gmail.com.
Yeah.
We'd take 200 acres.
Yeah.
No, we can't do it. That's too small.
Would you guys, I asked you this the other day, and, would you consider running it, the sprints, US Sprint Enduro Series style with 2 days of racing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be the goal. We just have to get the numbers to make financial sense. Because right now we basically, I guess I don't want to quote numbers because I haven't sat down and seen how much we lose every weekend because it's depressing. So I just avoid it till the end of the year and go, oh, do I want to do that again next year? But let's say we lose like a couple $1,000 or $1,000 a weekend. Right now with 115 entries, if we get up to that 300 or 250, then I'd rather the racing, if the numbers increase and therefore revenue increases, I'd rather put that revenue into making better racing. So in that case, we can make it 2 days. We can make the day a little bit more enjoyable and have that 2-day racing. So get more time in and stuff like that. So that's kind of the goal. As long as the numbers increase so that I don't have to keep forking out thousands of
It'd
dollars
be
every
fun
month that I
to
don't have.
set up a 2-day thing. Like you get to the numbers where you can run a 2-day thing and then have it like, maybe a little more ISD style where the pro classes have paddock,
Yeah,
lockdown
for
paddock
sure.
or something, right? And don't do that to the
Yeah.
amateurs, obviously, but
Yeah.
because that would suck. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, all those things, right? Like it's interesting, and yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong. Like just look at how the US does it, right? Like we were just kind of talking about. So US Sprint Enduro and GNCC on the East Coast, and GPC Hare Scrambles on the West Coast, and they draw members of their ISDE team from both series or both
Yeah.
coasts.
Yeah.
And you can pick and choose a little bit. Yeah. Well, shit, man. So I'm heading down, switching gears. I'm heading down to
Right.
Kellogg, Idaho, Ohio. I don't want to
Ohio.
go to Ohio. That would be a terrible mistake.
That's a long
That would
drive.
be a really long
Indeed.
drive. I did basically that drive already this year. I don't want to do it again. Well, that's not
Yeah.
true. It was fun. I had a really good time. Thank you, Dupuy family.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I'm heading now to Kellogg, Idaho for the Silver King Hard Enduro. It's one of those granddaddy hard enduro races out of the US. This year it's interesting. They're not part of the US Hard Enduro series. They're not part of any series or standalone event. But with the notoriety and the purse where all the top guys are going, and there's some Euro talent is going to be showing up. I know I was texting with you the other day saying Alfredo Gomez is going to be there. Sandro Gomez is going to be there. Sufsella is going to be there. If you don't know who Sufsella is, he's a really fast junior racing super enduro, hard enduro. He was second in the Super Enduro Championships, I think is how it played out, behind Ashton Brightmore, who won the Super Enduro this last year. Really fast kid. Really looking forward to meeting him. He's never heard of me, but I'm going to go slap a high five with him for sure. And yeah, like quite a few people from Canada going down. So what's interesting is this is now, by the time that's over, we're then into like about, I would say, I don't have the date right in front of me, but we're like about 3 weeks out after this coming weekend from Romaniacs on the FAM Hard Enduro World Championship circuit. Massive, probably the toughest race, just for number of days and the insanity of the courses. Mega. So the big news out of that series is that after Erzberg, Mani Lettenbichler re-injured his knee in training and requires meniscus surgery. Has had that surgery now, I believe. The last thing I saw from him posting up is that it sounded like he was pretty hopeful that it's not going to be a really long time off, but I don't know if you can come back in time for Romaniacs. It just so happens there's this Canadian kid who's pretty fast at hard enduro. This guy named Tristan Hart or something like that. FMF KTM Factory Racing.
Heard of
Yeah.
him?
I don't know what his nickname is, like the Android or something.
The iPhone?
The iPhone.
The Android?
Tristan iPhone Hart. So the robot. Yeah. We're not totally stupid. Like I'm pretty dumb.
I'm more dumb than you
No.
are. I'm dumber.
You want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? No. So Tristan's going to be
Tristan.
there. All the top US hard enduro guys are going to be there, with the exception of Cody Webb. I did message him the other day to ask, because he hurt his knee in the prologue at Erzberg, and he is not going to be back for Silver King's. Just not worth the risk to him. He doesn't want to have to, risk injuring it and requiring surgery. He's got a great season going in the US Hard Enduro Premier Series. Doesn't want to jeopardize that. But pretty much everyone else is going to be there, plus a pile of Canadians. It's going to be good. Really looking forward to it. I haven't been. But, as prep for Romaniacs, for Tristan, he was second in Romaniacs last year. And whether or not Manny races, I mean, if Manny does come back, what's it done to his fitness? It'll be interesting. This is, I think Tristan has an opportunity to win that with Manny, with Manny there and in full form. I forget exactly what the time differential was after like the multi-days of racing, but it was in the hour to an hour 15 ballpark after all that time on course, like dozens of hours of racing over several days in the wilds of Romania. So I think Tristan is a legitimate threat in any round he goes to. Any race he goes to, he's a legitimate threat. This is one of the 3 FIM rounds he's doing. So Erzberg, P2 behind Mani, coming all the way back from 50th, being last off the start after he crashed. Just like
that
Billy
was wild
last year. Wild race, really good race, and a solid ride. I mean, just a great ride. I would say, like, you know, if I was going to bet on Tristan to win a race, this, you know, an FIM race, this would be one of them. I think Romaniacs is a great chance for him, and not just because Mani being hurt. I mean, yeah, that adds, like, you know, a little more into the mix, but you know, it's the kind of racing that rewards someone who's mentally strong as fuck, and that is Tristan Hart.
Yeah.
Like, just a mental maniac.
Yeah. And his riding style is less errors than anybody I've seen in that series.
Yeah.
Like, he's able to, you know, especially over a multi-day thing, it's like he'll hit lines that other people walk,
Yeah.
or, you know, make these serious errors. And, you know, I'm not a hard enduro expert by no means, but when I'm riding my bike and I make an error, it takes a lot out of you. And the consecutive, you know, hits and walks and stuff like that's where I see him prevailing in a lot of that, especially in that particular race.
Well, maybe something we're going to have to do is get Shane Cuthbertson back on the podcast, either just before or just after Romaniacs, to break it down on one side or the other and talk about what that is, because
that'd be cool.
That is a hell of a race. And yeah, I mean, there is a Canadian connection in the race organization there, and, you know, it might be worth getting that person on. I know they're going to be busy, so maybe that's a post-race effort. But yeah, very exciting, and I'm pretty stoked to go to Silver Kings for the first time. That is, you know, they've put it out there that they are a likely candidate to be one of the new FIM World Rounds. You know, I'm really excited to go down and check it out. I mean, it just, you know, you watch the recaps of the past years, and it's mental. So looking forward to it. I got my credentials got sorted out today, the day before I leave. So that's good.
Nice.
That'll be useful. So yeah, good. It's going to be 1, 2, 3 days of racing. So let's go.
Sick. Yeah, that sounds fun. I wish I was good at that stuff.
Yeah,
I would do it more often.
I'm going to sleep in the back of the SUV. I'm going to do it.
Ooh,
I'm doing
that's
it
always
dirt
a
bike
good time.
style, baby.
Why haven't we got you on the van program yet?
Dude, I ain't got that. I ain't got van money.
It's true. Vans are stupid expensive these days.
I bought an SUV in December, and at the time I kind of kicked around the idea of getting like a Sprinter or, you know, something similar, and just a bare one. And then just building it out enough to have like a sleeping area and a working area to go cover races.
And a bucket to poop in.
I don't have that in the car. I'm sure hoping. So I got myself a spot in the lot that they have for people in their vans and trailers and stuff. And I'm sure hoping that lot, because Vendors Row's there, I'm sure hoping it's got porta potties.
Oh man, all that's going in my head is the text messages on one of your first drives.
Oh, when I went down to Arizona, like rating the the rest stops on the way down.
The rest stops, and the first one you stopped at, the Tim Hortons in Lethbridge. I think
Lethbridge was a disaster. And then, you know, I don't know where I stopped next, but then Utah was just like a hole in the ground, and it was amazing.
I don't know why. I have this picture.
I thought I was going to have to go across the street after finishing my business to the other spot in Lethbridge to finish my business, but
that's all I can picture is
me waddling across the road after driving through a blizzard to get out of Calgary. Oh my god, that was epic. I'm looking forward to being at a hard enduro where it does not snow. That'll be good. So yeah, no, I've been messaging with Steve Ford, Melissa Harton, a few other people.
Oh yeah, good.
Sounds like they're going to be in the lot. I was like, save spot for my Rogue. They're like, you know,
yeah.
So it'll be good. It'll be good hanging out with the folks from Alberta and BC that I know. Really looking forward to it. And and the people I know from the US Hard Enduro Series, really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to cover, man. It is hard to
Yeah.
cover. I was joking with people today that it's like I'm going down to Idaho to hike over a mountain to occasionally see, some of the top racers in the world flash through the woods in front of me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Oh, I screwed up my camera. That was a
yeah.
waste of
Oh,
half a
it
day.
wasn't on.
So it feels like high risk, but it's always a good time, and it's good to get out there
Yeah,
and fly the flag and see people again. Like
absolutely.
as much as
Wear your hat. Bring your
yeah,
hat.
I will have my hat and my hoodie. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you see me in Idaho, come say hi. I'd love meeting people.
Will this be launched
I'm gonna try and get this
before
thing out.
Idaho?
Today is Tuesday, the 25th of June. It's currently 8:49 p.m. Mountain, and I'm hoping to have this out before I take off tomorrow
Okay.
around lunchtime.
Yeah, so I know lots of Albertans going down. So anybody that's from Alberta and you hear this, go find Noel, say hello.
And he might need somewhere to poop.
Yes. It's very likely. He brings his own teepee.
Yeah, actually, I've got it. Yeah, I got that. No, there's like hotels and stuff all over the place, so I'll be fine.
Yeah, you're
Bring
fine.
some Ziplocs.
Oh, it's gone off
It's
the
gone
rocks.
off the rails.
Yeah.
We were like, just before we kicked off, we're like, let's try and just kind of nail it in about an hour. Well, we're almost at an hour and a half, so. And you've put a hard day in at the salt mines at the shop, working away.
At the old salt mine. Yeah.
So yeah, good to see you, man. And one other thing is, I noticed that we both shaved off our mustaches.
Yeah.
I shaved mine off after I had COVID because it felt like a germ retention
infestation
system, and it felt
retention.
Yeah, like it just felt like it needed to be off my face. So
I shaved mine off because I got like an ingrown right in here, and I couldn't get at it, so I got real frustrated when I go home from Al. I cut her all off. But I don't know if you never noticed why I have facial hair. Do you see this on the camera?
Yeah.
That's a scar from 2013 Riverglade Pro National. Going for the whole shot. Ryan Lockhart got the whole shot, and a rock came off his rear wheel. I was in second place. And I ducked because it came at me so fast. You know, your knee jerk reaction.
Yep.
I ducked, and it went through under my goggles.
Smashed you in the face.
It split me right open to my teeth.
Wow.
And there was blood everywhere.
Did you finish?
And I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah. But I did like one slow lap because I literally was seeing stars. Like it hit me in the face so hard. And I came around, and the guy that was wrenching for me, my buddy Tom, he's like got on the pit board written, "Why are you going so slow?" And I got up to him after the first lap, and my jersey was like painted in blood, and he's like, "Oh." But anyway, so I have a reminder my entire life.
I've got a really good mountain biking scar right here. You probably can't see. And also here. So I launched a huge jump, impressing my friends, did the look back, like, check me out how cool I am. And failed to see the giant hole my front wheel was landing in. And back in the day, 3 inches of travel was a lot. Ate that up pretty fast and ate a lot of ground with my face. Split it to the jawbone on the chin, and then split like the two cartilage that come down off your nose, split those open. So I had a bunch of. The worst part was I had played hooky from work that day. I'm sick. And then I showed up with a face full of stitches, and I was like, "Oh, I fell down the stairs because I was so sick."
Oh yeah, dog bit me.
Yeah, I don't think they believe me.
No, I wouldn't.
No, fuck that. Yeah. Anyway, well, hey, good to see you, man.
Right.
Good chatting, and we'll be talking before too long, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
Peace
Enjoy
out.
your travels.
Bye.